Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show where we talk about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today I'm going to talk about why I don't like Hollow Knight, and why that is okay. Hollow Knight, very, very well-liked game. Very, very high critically acclaimed Metroidvania. You know, a game that taken me a while to get around to playing, but I finally picked up and gave it a shot, and I can say that it's definitely not a game for me. There are some things I'm going to go over today that I think maybe a lot of people might disagree with, and that's okay, right? If you do disagree, that's totally fine. But I will say respectfully, like, the reason I'm doing this video is one, because, you know, I'm just being honest about my time with the game, and two, it's okay to like not like things that, you know, other people like. I know that this series, a lot of the time, you know, the games that I've looked at, Super Mario 64, Age of Empires, you know, they are big popular games. Now, Hollow Knight is made by an indie team, and, you know, there is a good game here, right? Let me start off by saying there is a good game here. There is some good, the movement and the way the game handles is great, but there are a lot of minor things in this game that made one major thing for me, and that's kind of why I stopped playing it, or why I don't enjoy playing it. Like, if things were slightly different, I think I could stick with it, but I kind of got to it. I played about 3 hours of it, which might not be a lot to some people, but I played about 3 hours, spent most of my time lost. The gameplay that you'll hopefully see while I'm talking about it is just me wandering around. I have no idea where I'm going, and I think that is a big part of that, and we'll come to that. But I will say it is a good game, and if you enjoy that kind of tough game that, you know, you just kind of wander around until you find what you're doing, great. I don't. And we're going to get into that. And I'm going to start with my biggest problem with this game, and that is the map system. The map system in this game is designed from straight off the bat. You bump into this cartographer essentially, and he's like, "Hey, I make maps of different areas. Come and find me in the different areas." And then you can get maps of things. Now, in principle, it's probably not a bad idea, but because the game, on top of that, doesn't really give you a direction of where you need to go, you are kind of left wandering around. And most other games that are Metroidvanias, what you tend to find is that the map will auto-fill in while you're exploring. Well, this game doesn't do that, so if you end up in an area that you don't have a map, you have to try and memorize the whole thing, which feels incredibly archaic and incredibly frustrating. Now, I assumed, and this could be the case, I don't know, that you might bump into him in every area and he would give you the map. What I've ended up finding is that you kind of go back to the main town and you buy the maps, but I'm not sure what triggers when you can and can't buy those maps, because in the second area that I got to, I finished the boss, went back to town, and then gave me the map for that area I just finished. And I was like, well, that's not useful to me, because I've just finished this area and I'm leaving. Like, yes, maybe for finding secrets or something, but I genuinely was like really frustrated with how it's handled. It just doesn't feel well implemented to me, and I think that, to me personally, this is bad game design, right? Because what you're doing is giving players something that that would have been more useful to them when they get to that area, right? Even if you don't let them buy the map until you've done, like, because I assume with most areas is that you have like a main boss and maybe you come back later. I don't know how big the areas are. It's really hard to grasp how much it is, but you don't, like, even if the map's for like, hey, there's a much bigger area to explore once you've done that boss, right? That's fine if you would just at least auto fill in up until that point. Because you don't, that, like, you have no idea, and the game is constantly trying to be. There's a very specific types of choices that they use in this game. Very dark atmosphere, very lonely, all this other stuff. But it does feel like it's a choice that gets in the way of gameplay, and some people are going to enjoy that. Now, I think personally, if you want to do this, a toggle would be better than just dropping somebody in. And the other thing that I really don't like about the map system is that you have to buy, and you get currency in this game, so you buy the maps, that's fine, whatever, but you have to buy a icon on the map to see where you are on the map, and I don't understand why. It just feels so unnecessary, and it's not, in the currency anyway for certain items feels unnecessary. So there's just a lot of choices already in the map system alone that were just like a bit frustrating, and not being able to just have like the map auto fill in, you know, or not be able to get hold of those maps once you go to the area once, or, you know, at least a very obvious point as to where maybe you can get to the fast travel in each area and then go back to the town and then you can buy the map. But the problem is you're never told anything, and this game does an awful job of telling you anything. And it's kind of why a lot of my frustrations came about, because I'm okay with a game not necessarily giving me a lot of direction, but some direction. And that kind of comes on to... so we've got the map system being very frustrating, and my main reason for not being like into this game, but followed up with the introduction to this game. The first hour of this game is, in my opinion, is going to turn off a lot of people, because you literally go down into a cave and you're expected to explore, which is fine, but if you take the wrong path, you miss the map guy straight away. If you go right instead of left, you miss the map guy. You run into loads of different areas that you can't do anything in, and eventually you'll find him. And I generally think this is one of the worst hours I've played in the game in a long time. It just felt like I was like, all you've got to do is just block me off from going right, just send me left, right, to start with. And then once I've kind of got the map guy and I'm heading in the right direction, I'm okay from that point forward if the game doesn't want to like give me any direction. All I really want is to know what area am I heading to, and there might be somebody, NPCs that you can talk to in the game. There's definitely things that are hinted at, but it doesn't give me, it's like, hey, you need to head to this area. I don't need to know how to get there, I just need to know that's the area I've got to go to solve this thing. And that's another thing, this game is directionless, basically, and some people are going to enjoy that, right? I am not one of those people. Breath of the Wild does it in a way that I think works. It goes, hey, you need to go here, there's the main quest, you need to go there. How you get there, and how roundabout way you get there, is up to you. This being a 2D Metroidvania, right, like it is a little bit more linear, I imagine, but all it needs to say is, you need to head to this area. Cool, I don't need any more than that, I just know I gotta go there. Metroid Dread does that really well. It's like, hey, you need to go to this area to pick up something. You're like, cool, I don't know how to get there right now, but I'll figure it out. And that's something that I think is really important. Being completely directionless for a lot of people is, some people find it very anxiety ridden. Me, I just get frustrated because I don't want my time wasted while playing a game. And now, to be fair, that's a very personal thing, right? Some people like being able to explore and take their time. Me, I want to have the options, but I want to know, like, okay, I'm heading towards this goal, but, you know, maybe I'll go and check some other stuff out. But because I don't have any direction, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going completely off the beaten path. I don't know if I'm going to run into an area that's just going to kill me. There's just so many factors in it that just make it incredibly frustrating to play, because it's like, I don't feel like I'm gaining anything. I feel like my time's being wasted. And that is something that really sucks, because you fix a couple of those tweaks already, and the game, for me, becomes significantly more enjoyable. The whole map thing, I feel like, should be a toggleable option. Or at least the item to buy to put yourself on the map. I think that's really harsh on new players. And I think having zero direction, again, maybe you have these toggleable things, maybe if there's an easy mode, or not necessarily an easy mode, but a thing say, hey, would you like a hand, just the first time you play it, just, you know, will ping you the right direction you need to go in. You know, and I get it. Some people are gonna be like, "No, we don't want that to ruin this, like, this atmosphere and experience." But honestly, like, playing this game, that first hour was incredibly frustrating, and I can see so many other people bouncing off that don't want to put the time in or feel like they're wandering around aimlessly. Right? If I have to go online to look up a guide, you have failed at trying to convey to the player what to do. Right? It's the same problem I have when people say that about Dark Souls. Right, Dark Souls is very convoluted, right? That's like really convoluted in some aspects of those games, right? Luckily, most of the time you have one or two different ways to go in those games. But if you're saying to me, hey, play that game with a guide, then those developers have failed in what their intention were, right? Now, you don't need to play a guide with Dark Souls, but I can see why it helps, right? Same with Hollow Knight. I don't feel like I personally need to look stuff up, but as you'll see in this footage, I'm just wandering around aimlessly a lot of the time. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't like that as a player. Like, I want some direction. It doesn't have to be hand-holdy. I don't want it to tell me, go, here, here, here. It's like, point me towards a place. Just tell me the place I need to go to, and I will figure the rest out. You know, personal preference, I understand, but, you know, definitely frustrating when I don't know what I'm doing and dying and things like that. A couple other things then. There's a weird hit stun thing that happens in this game. When you get hit by an enemy creature, the game freezes for about a quarter of a second, and the sound dampens. And this is, I don't know what it is. It's a personal thing. I hate it. I wish I could turn it off. I wish I just get hit and knocked back. But you kind of freeze. All the sound gets like sucked in and compressed. It drives me up the wall. And sometimes the iframes, and again, this might just be my own personal experience, like playing it, feel a little bit inconsistent. Sometimes I get twatted a couple of times, and so I get like the iframes. Sometimes they feel shorter in the bosses. I don't know what like the framing times are or anything like that. I just find the effect really annoying, and I can't turn it off to my knowledge, and it drives me up the wall. It's like I just want to get hit and knock back and flash for the time I'm invincible, but every time I get hit, it's like the sound goes and then loop, and it's just like every time, and it's just like, why? Who chose this? I will say that's very much a personal choice. It's something that I don't like, but it drove me up the wall. Just generally, I just wish I could turn it off. Yeah, so there's that. There is this weird thing with this currency in this game, right? So I've already mentioned it. This game does the Dark Souls style of, hey, if you die, you drop your money. When you go back to where you dropped your money, there's like your ghost or your soul or whatever it is that is, you have to fight it to get your money back. Now, I don't like this as a mechanic because it feels needlessly time wasty. Again, that is personal preference. Excuse me. But I don't understand why it's in this game. I get that some people like that kind of level of intimidation and making sure you play quite safe. And you know, you get to a point where you just like, well, I stopped caring about money because I've got everything or whatever. But because you have to buy the maps, I think because you have to buy the maps and this mechanic's in there, I think that's what drives me up the wall. If it was like the money was for other things, either like throwaway items or something, I probably wouldn't be as bothered. But because I'm like, oh, I want to head back and get the maps so I can see what I'm doing, and then I've got this, I just don't enjoy that mechanic. It's not something I enjoy. I don't care about dying in the game. I don't care about the game being tough in combat, but every time I die, I've got to deal with this stupid idiot that's like, you know, whack him a few times, he can fight back and get my money back. It's just a mechanic that just feels a little bit unnecessary to me. But again, that's like a bit more of a personal preference on that. It's just not something I enjoy. I don't get the appeal of it. Obviously people like it, but it's just not fun to me. And that, like I said, in conjunction with the currency in this, it's kind of like, ugh. Like, do one or the other, not both. Like, don't make me have to buy maps and things that are actually useful, and then also take away my money, and then if I die again trying to get way back there, then I lose it all again. Yeah, it's not fun. I don't like it. I don't like it in Dark Souls. I don't like it here. It's not something I enjoy. The aesthetic of the game. So this is something that I think is going to upset some people when I get to the point I'm trying to make here, but the game is very dark. The game is, you have a light around you. Certain areas are lighter than that. And there are a variety of areas, but because it's so dark, everything's very samey looking. Everything's very muted. And again, that's the intent of the artists. They want the game to feel like it's dripping with atmosphere. And that's okay. Like, that wouldn't be a problem. But it does kind of start to grate after a few areas where you're just like, well, everything's the same sort of similar colors, or like just everything's really dark, and that can lead to some of its own problems, where there are times where sometimes it's so dark that I can't tell where a platform begins and ends. It kind of blends into the background, which is never good. You never want that for your players to be confused about what's background, what's not, what's easy to walk on, things like that. So that's kind of annoying. There's also blind jumps in this game. Like, there's a lot of time you'll come from the top of the screen and you're going down. I hate blind jumps. Like, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. This is not the only game to do it. There's a lot of games that do blind jumps. I hate them all the time anyway. But this probably wouldn't have been a problem, but on top of not sometimes being obscured, because sometimes they put things in the foreground that will obscure certain platforms and certain areas, and obviously it's dark already, and it's just a mixture of things that like aren't inherently bad, but definitely make my experience more of a pain. So there's that as well. And unfortunately, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but artistic intent of a game should never get in the way of the gameplay. And I do think making it hard to see, like 90% of the time, gets in the way of me misjudging certain things or not quite seeing things, I think, as clear as they should be. And I'm like, oh, if I wish it was just a bit brighter here and all that sort of stuff. And I understand that that would never change. These guys made a game that they wanted, but I'm in my right to call that out and say, look, because you wanted to design a game this way, you should make it more obvious with, and I'm not talking about like secrets and trying to find secrets, I'm talking about just general platforming. Like, make it easier for me to see where I'm going. And it wasn't a lot, but there were a couple of times where I would fall into like acid or whatever the hot water is in there, because I misjudged the platforms because I couldn't tell where they started or ended, and I'm like, that's really annoying. And that was a big problem too. I think a lot of people are just going to straight up disagree with everything that I've just been talking about. And I'm okay with that. I don't really care. If you like the game, amazing. I'm glad you like the game. I think there is a good game here, but all the things I've listed are just... and they make to be just a very frustrating experience. And I haven't touched the combat. Like, the combat itself is tough, but I don't think that's even a problem. Like, if you don't like tough combat, this game is not for you, right? But the combat was never a problem to me. It was everything else. You know, just the way they've designed this game, a lot of the design choices, whether good or bad, right? The only thing that I think is actually bad is when it gets in the way of the gameplay. So like I said, the artistic intent and the map system is just feels bad, right? It might not be bad, but it feels bad to me, and I would not design a map system this way, right? I think if you're going to make it autofill in the maps, and if you're going to make me buy the maps, like, you know, so be it. But, like, have some way of, you know, communicating that to the player when I can get it, not at the end of a zone when I finish the zone. Because the other thing is this game has signposts, and the signposts are like, you learn what they are. I still don't know what half of them are. Like, I'm just like, I wish this game would just tell me some things, right? Just they don't have to be like super in depth. Just like, this is a what's it station, so this is a fast travel station. There's like a sign with loads of like creatures on it, which I assume means like open field or something. I honestly don't know. Just don't know when it comes to this game, but it is a shame. I do like Metroidvanias. I would have liked to have really gotten into this game, but every time I picked it up and played, and even the gameplay I recorded for this this video was weeks after the last time I stopped playing it, which will show you how far I actually got in the game. And in all that footage, I have no idea where I'm going. Right, the entire time I'm not having necessarily fun playing. I enjoy the movement, but there are blind jumps I have to deal with. There's stuff, and it's just. I've accepted that when I play a game, no matter how critically acclaimed or how good it is, if after 3 to 5 hours I am not enjoying it, I'm just going to stop and put it down and walk away and go and play something else, right? Because, quite frankly, this is not a game for me. For all the reasons I've listed, right? Now, if you enjoy the game, great. I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you enjoy it. The one thing I will say is the music in this game is very hit and miss. Some areas... very, very good music. Some areas really bland, but, you know, again, it's atmosphere. I get it. If you enjoy it, great. Enjoy this game. Love it for what it is, right? But for me personally, this is a game that I probably will never touch again. I don't want to play it. In my opinion, there are other better Metroidvanias. There's things like Metroid Dread that's obviously more recent. The Mummy Demastered, I actually really enjoyed that game. And then, like, there's things like Axiom Verge and stuff like that I just had more fun with. Which, you know, you might not like those games, and that is also cool. So, but for me personally, Hollow Knight, not a game for me, has its issues. Core gameplay good, a lot of the stuff around it bad, a lot of minor things that just make it frustrating to play, and, you know, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's not a game for me, and going forward, I won't be playing this again. I'll go and find other things that I think that I will enjoy more, basically. So, thank you very much for watching this video, as always. If you like this video, hit like. If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button. Links for Facebook and Twitter will be down below in the description. And until next video, I will see you then.